small project today. I want to get the 575 set back up for the 1955. Last summer we went through and set it up to pull behind the 1950T, and I wasn't completely satisfied with how it worked to begin with, and it actually pairs up really good with this tractor, although technically it's not the right vintage for it. But I've kind of decided that I would rather almost have if I could find a white 508 for behind the T. Same thing, it wouldn't necessarily be the correct, well, it wouldn't be the correct vintage at all. It'd be way too new, obviously, but if the hitches on those allow you a lot more adjustability. Plus you have the added benefit of a whole lot more trash clearance. Plus, it would be nice to find a spring automatic reset, which is the biggest reason I want to go that new. Rather than, I mean, the hydraulic reset, I mean, it works, but in our heavy ground, it's more of a novelty than anything, because it doesn't quite have the, doesn't quite have the ass. So, oh, and the other reason I want to set this back up for this tractor is because after I had the injection pump rebuilt, I know how it pulled it before I had the injection pump rebuilt. Now I want to see how it pulls it after I had the injection pump rebuilt. So that's the other reason. Why does it seem like my hoses Is this not the cylinder I've always had on this plow? I don't remember moving it off of here. I don't know why my hoses are too short. I know that this is the cylinder I've always had on this. Oh, I remember. For some reason I don't know why I did it. For some reason I turned this cylinder. I gotta turn the cylinder back around. Okay, now that that problem's all sorted out, don't ask me why I had that cylinder turned around, but I did for some reason. I'm sure I had a reason at the time. Okay, so I honestly can't remember how much I had to move this, but first thing we got to do is put the drawbar back over in this hole. I'm trying to remember if I have a manual for this thing or not. So that should give me the rough starting point, because I never really had it where I actually liked it, but I don't know. Either way, drawbar's got to move, and that coulter's got to come off so we can move the drawbar. And I did move the mast a little bit. I moved it over about 1 inch, but I don't know if I'll have to put that back or not. I might have to. Okay, so I went and looked at the book, and we're going to set this thing up like the book, which the first time I set this plow up for this tractor, I don't think I had bought the book yet when I rebuilt this plow. But I had the drawbar in this hole. In the book, what they do is they have the drawbar basically to where, yes, Teeter, yes, what? Basically, you move the drawbar over to where this bracket straddles this, basically, whichever hole it ends up in, to basically get this bracket right in here somewhere. However, it looks like in the pictures it basically straddles this bolt, but the angle, it's gonna end up somewhere right about here. Which I think, if I remember right, puts 2 bolt holes over here. And then you do all your main adjusting by moving the hitch plate back and forth. And if anybody wonders what these 2 brackets are, there was actually a buck bar it was 2 pieces of flat stock with some braces in between them, and it basically made a tower for your 3rd link to hook in, and it came up to like right about here. And basically the whole point of it, and actually what the point of this crossbar is on top of your tower, if you got to a situation where your front end came up, that buck bar would be there and it'd come back and hit this cross up here on top of the hitch and keep the tractor from coming over backwards. However, apparently most guys didn't like it, because I've only ever seen 1 plow that still had that on there. And it was one of them deals where that guy, he was everything by the book kind of guy. So actually it was Max, the guy that I bought my 73, or the guy that owned my 7300 and stuff. His I think it's a 565. Still has that buck bar on it. That's the only plow ever. I'm not saying there's not more out there, but that's the only plow I've seen around here, at least, that still has that on there. So now that the introductions are out of the way, where can I set you? I guess that's as good a spot as any. So this coulter's got to go away first. Get the hitch bar out, which ain't no fun task because it's a tight fit. Huh. Count yourself lucky when them bolts just kind of want to fall out. Think, Lizzie, this is gonna be really hard because her name's Lily. It's not the name we picked, it's the name she came with. And I got a friend who has another Aussie. Her name's Lizzie. So I've been screwing up and calling her Lizzie instead of Lily. So it's gonna take me a minute to quit screwing that up. Okay, now you got to get the drawbar out of the bracket there, which requires a big hammer. Because it's basically for all intents, a press fit into that bracket. Okay, now the fun part is actually putting it back in, because you got to get the bolt holes lined up. Which, if you can get one lined up, you're not doing too bad, because you can just swing it in. But getting one lined up can prove to be a challenge. It's too hot for this crap. Looks like we want that right there. That should give me 2 bolt holes exposed. It gets this basically right here, so it should match the picture fairly decent. Because the book is actually very vague on setting this hitch up. For all intents and purposes, to paraphrase it, it basically says set the hitch to make the plow right. So here's our 1 bolt hole lined up. Kinda. Wonder if they always fit this tight, or if they just got this tight over time. And I've tried buffing the hitch, getting the rust off of it. It doesn't work. It doesn't make a bit of difference. This is just too far. This is just how tight it wants to fit. And that's the way it wants to be. That being said, generally, once you got a plow set up for a tractor, it just stayed set up, so it's not like you were moving this hitch all the time anyhow. So I guess for a pretty much one and done deal, it wasn't that big of an issue. Okay, drawbar's back in. I slid it over 4 inches, which means now the mast has to go that way about 4 inches for starters. So I already got it busted loose here at the bolts and the pull rod. So last or if I remember right, this thing really doesn't move that hard. I think it's actually this piece that moves the hardest. way. Maybe it does move a little hard. Okay, hold on. Okay. That's easier. Needs to go about another 1/2 inch. A little more. Can find something to go with. That was probably too far. That was too far. I wish this was the newer plow. On newer plows with a different mast in it, at least I'm assuming they're newer plows. Maybe, I don't know why they would have eliminated this as a feature, but there was a cross hole drilled through the mast, and there was an L bracket here with a draw bolt, and there was an actual bolt that you could move this back and forth with. That would make life a lot easier. Alright, I got everything snugged up. You know, the one thing I didn't check, I was doing everything based on what the book said for a tread width. Not that it's gonna matter a whole lot, but just curiosity. Yeah, technically this is still 6 inches too narrow technically for plowing, but it's one of them so last summer when I was setting this up for the T, trying to make it work for a tractor setup on 60-inch centers, I actually had this guy call me lazy and I just needed to move the wheels on the tractor. I don't think people understand the effort it takes to move these cast iron centers, and then if the centers aren't in once you move everything around, because first off you got to pull the whole hub off because they're bolted to the inside of the hub, and then you got to move everything around to get it right, and then God forbid you're on the wrong notch on the rim, so then you got to bust the rim loose from it's not as easy as like spin outs or something like that. Now if you were going to go out and plow 500-600 acres in a fall, it would make sense to set the tread width up. If I'm going to plow 20 acres and then be done with it, it does not make any sense to spend half a day dicking around. And plus, the more you screw with them U-bolts, the more likely you are to strip the threads, and them things aren't cheap. And it just, you can just straighten it. It's just, no. It's not that hard to make a hitch. Well, the 60-inch center with this style of hitch, it gets a little flaky. You start to run out of adjustment, but for the way that's set up, it shouldn't be a problem. But now, I just snugged the mast back up. Nothing's tight, but basically what we got to do now, basically all we can do right now is hook it up, pick it up, move it, set it back down, and see where we land in relation to the tire to know what else we have to do to the mast. That does give a nice straight pull on the steering arm though, so that's nice. So let me get hooked back up here. Well, I can already tell you without even getting hooked up, because I'm basically centered on the mast for the most part. Plow's got to go that way. So we'll actually have to take the mast and move it back that way. this and let's bring it back about, I'm going to bring it back about half that distance that I moved it that way, and then we'll actually get it hooked up and see where we land. But yeah, I can tell you right now, just the way she sits, we're going to be taking too small of a cut. Okay, so if you throw a piece of tubing down through there, box tube, whatever, to simulate the edge of your furrow wall, this is going to be the edge of the furrow. If you bring that back, technically I'm right where I need to be, but you want to overcut a little bit to make up for, you know, not being perfectly straight all the time. So I'm thinking if I just take that mast and put it about back where I had it to start with, that should kick the edge of that point basically about the width of that box tube over. Or about the width of that, so it'd basically be riding right here, and I think that'll have it. I think that's what we're gonna do, and then I can try it from there. Well, technically that should be good. So I guess all it's left to do is tighten everything up. What time is it? 6:45. I guess I can tighten everything up and grease it, and we can run down the road real quick to that small wheat field, because there's no reason that can't get turned under, and we can make a couple rounds and see how she does. I don't know, it might still be too wet. It might still actually be too wet to actually officially do any plowing. Oh, I gotta put my coulter back on too. So, but it might be too wet to actually do any real plowing, but if I can go make a couple rounds and make sure the setup's right. So let me get buttoned back up here and we'll head to the field. Okay, let's see what she's got. If I can get this thing folded up like it belongs. 7 rounds. Well, I made 7 rounds down there, and I'm pretty well satisfied with the job it's doing. I don't think we need to make too many more adjustments to it, but I do need to throw a bunch of suitcase weights on the nose, because you can tell every single time you took a tree root because you're looking at the sky. So that's partly why I was dreading moldboarding that field, but it's something that needs to be done because them roots got to go. And this is going to do a better job of getting them than a chisel plow. So plus I need it to plow that hayfield anyhow. So I'm going to go ahead and drop it for the night. And tomorrow I'll get weights thrown on the tractor, and I don't think I need the dual for what little bit, and that dual is only going to be a hindrance trying to plow that hayfield with the stuff I got to go around, so I'll just leave the singles on it and we'll get her done. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Alright, we're going to go plow that, or finish plowing that wheat field today. Shouldn't take that long. I gave her a very severe overbite. About 1,100 pounds hanging there. I technically, if I remember right, we can fit 11 on here. I don't think we can fit 12, but in order to get all 11 on there, I'd have to go take one off the tee. So 1,100 pounds ought to do it. They're 110 pounders, or are they 105? The flat ones might be 105s, and the ones with the balls might be 110s. Either way, there's either 1150 or 1100 there. If that won't keep it planted, I don't know what will. right, this is all done. This was some hard plowing. It's sandy up until after this first little rise here, and then everything back here and all the way around the back is all clay. I was not expecting that. I thought most of this ground was fairly light. And then we pulled up a bunch more stuff to pick up, which I was expecting, but I'd rather get it yanked out and picked up and gone than have it keep hanging out down there. So, and I back plowed the dead furrow. That turned out really nice. These end rows were a little bit of a pain plowing around that curve. Plus I kept hitting roots right here. It'd trip the plow. The root would get stuck on the end of the point, and then the plow wouldn't go back in the ground. So this is kind of a mess, but it is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. At least till it comes time to, ooh, that's a good one. At least till it comes time to work it down again, which saw finisher will make quick work of this. So anyhow, I'm gonna go home and drop the plow and see what I can do from here. So I guess that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one.